Hello again. So it might not be surprising to you to hear that I don't really like small talk very much. It seems to be a pretty common trait with Asperger's, to avoid it at all costs. So today I thought I would share some of the ways that I get around that aversion, because you can't ignore it completely. My main difficulty is that small talk is just not interesting for me, and so it's a lot of effort for no reward. So if I can find a topic that's actually interesting to me and interesting to the other person, it kind of solves that problem. In my late teens, the topic that I always used was my dreadlocks. Other people interested, they would come and ask me about it. I was confident talking about it. It was just really easy in that sense to bridge that initial barrier. Actually, one of my concerns about cutting off my dreadlocks was I was worried that I would no longer be able to use that gimmick to break the ice. But now that I think about it, I really haven't done that for at least 10 years. People just don't ask me about dreadlocks anymore. They did when I was 18, yeah, sure, they did all the time, every party I went to. But recently, that it just doesn't happen. It's just not a topic of conversation that people are interested in. So the change was not as big as I was worried about. But the challenge still remains of how do I get past the boring "what do you do?" that kind of question to something that's actually interesting. I shared one of the tactics last week, which was sharing something a bit unusual about myself that people don't normally share, in the hopes that the other person would find it interesting and reciprocate with something interesting of their own. The problem is that that can backfire really easily, and I'll end up talking about myself the whole time. So another strategy I like to use is to ask open-ended, unexpected questions, like, "Hi, what's your spirit animal?" Or "What are you passionate about?" Or "What's your superpower?" Things like that. It asks about the other person, but it doesn't ask anything specific. If I say, "What is your job?" "Where do you live?" "What is your name?" they all have really specific answers. Whereas if I say, "What's your superpower?" you have to think about it for a minute. I met a guy on the weekend and I said, "What's your superpower?" and he said maths. And we had a great conversation about how Scrabble is really maths, and how his favorite number corresponds to the color blue and things like that. It was interesting. I don't even know his name. He's referred to as Mr. Maths. The downside to asking unexpected questions is that not everyone appreciates it, but that's actually fine. I personally believe in quality over quantity, so I'm completely happy for 10 people to think I'm a little bit weird if it means that I don't talk to them and I find the one or two people who are actually interesting for me to talk to. I mean, the whole point of very, very shallow small talk conversations is that it is so superficial and you don't need a connection to the person that you're talking to. So it's not designed for that connection. If I'm searching for that connection, then I'm not going to find it by chatting with a stranger about how crazy the weather's been this week. I went to a masquerade ball last Saturday, didn't know anyone there, so it was a perfect opportunity to meet new people in what I would call a safe environment, because if you don't like them, you don't have to see them again. That's actually a really good way to practice some of these strategies. I found that a lot of people didn't react well to my avoidance of the common questions. For example, people would ask me my name, and I would bypass that question completely and say something like, "Don't you think it's interesting that we all wear masks to conceal our identity, yet the first thing we say is introducing our name?" The response a lot of the time is, "Oh yeah, interesting. So what was your name?" Or someone would ask me the classic question, "What do you do?" And I would say, "Oh, well, what I do is avoid answering stereotypical questions at all costs." And they go, "Ha ha ha ha. No, seriously, what do you do?" Like, anyway. And that just goes to show that you can't force people out of their comfort zone. I can invite someone to have an interesting conversation. I can invite someone to break the rules and step out of this stereotypical dance that everyone does in exactly the same way. But not everyone wants to do that. And if someone wants to have a conversation that involves questions like, "What's your name? Where do you come from? What do you do?" then that's what they want. And if that's not what I want, I have a choice of either being polite and doing it anyway, or finding someone else to talk to. And depending on the situation, either of those two options is perfectly valid. Anyway, they're my small talk strategies that try and instigate an interesting conversation as quickly as possible. Hopefully you found them interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you another time.